Well, Josh, I'm in your basement today, once again proving that we are real life friends.
Yes.
And I want to let you know that I quit my job at DoorDash because we have a Patreon now, and I'm able to pay all my bills thanks to our 30 patrons. You changed my life. So now I just sit in this basement and talk about whatever with Josh.
Yeah, you don't even have your own place. You just came here.
I'm here all day. I don't do anything. When you're at work, I wait for you.
Yeah, but I also edit the videos, so you don't even do that. Like, you're just here.
Yeah. I don't do anything.
We're going to be talking about a lot of stuff. Star Trek, obviously, the main thing. So I want to talk about some other stuff, too, though. So if you happen to be here just for Star Trek, that there's time codes, you can figure it out if you don't want to hear about anything else that we have to say. But we don't really know what this is yet. We just figured we would do this style of video every now and then. About whatever we're watching on the channel or just real life stuff, movies that we like, whatever. So obviously if you have recommendations, you can comment those. But we're starting today with Star Trek. We're doing our top 5 episodes of the first season now that we finished it. And that'll all be kind of like the main stuff as we progress here. But I think the first thing we should talk about, we didn't do a review for Thor, and it's because we didn't see it.
They talk about the Marvel fatigue, but I think I actually had it because afterwards, I was still in, oh, Shang-Chi, this is great. Black Widow, this is great. It's like kind of like ignoring that this thing in the back of my mind is like, I'm kind of tired of this. And we're so excited for Moon Knight and then Hawkeye. And Moon Knight really liked, Hawkeye was okay. And just like after a bit, I'm just like, I don't want to be here anymore. I think Spider-Man No Way Home, I think that was like okay, that was the last. That was like, this is great. And then when Doctor Strange came out and it was what it was, I'm just like, okay, I'm done.
Yeah.
I hear Miss Marvel's great, but it's like I don't want to watch it, and I don't want to go see Thor: Love and Thunder because I know I could already tell it's like, oh, they liked Ragnarok because of all the goofy stuff we made, so let's make it 10 times more of that. I'm sure that's exactly what it is. Plus, I hear there's a he's right behind me there joke in there. It's like, oh.
I didn't see it, like, not out of, like, I didn't plan to see it. I did genuinely plan to see it. But the weekend it came out, I just had so many plans, and, like, I was going over with my wife, like, our weekend. And I was like, when are we going to fit in seeing Thor? And then I just kind of had a realization of, like, I guess we're not. And then we just didn't see it. And then last weekend, I was like, oh, well, we'll see it, this upcoming weekend. And stuff came up. And then this weekend, you're coming over and stuff came up. And I think what it comes down to is if it was No Way Home, I would have made the room to see it, right? So it's like, it is something about the fact that I'm not as interested anymore. But that doesn't mean that I'm purposely not going to watch it. I mean, if I have the time to go see Thor while it's still in theaters, I will. Or if I just wait till it's out on Disney Plus, that'll be fine too.
Yeah, I canceled my A-list.
Oh.
Yeah, it's like I've just had like negative movie theater experiences a lot. Like I saw Batman twice, and the second time I saw it, there's kids up and down running up the theater. I saw Men, which was an A24 film. I'm like, I'm so excited for this, and I didn't like it. And it's like people on their phones. I'm just like, it used to be my favorite thing in the world, but now I don't think I like it anymore. Same thing with like the MCU. It's like just so, or even Star Wars. It's like it's something that I grew up with that I like, and it's like there's still some like nostalgia glasses thinking like, oh, I like this back then, I still like it now. It's like not acknowledging that I don't, if that makes any sense. I live 5 minutes from a movie theater, and I don't want to go. It's like the thought of like going there just stresses me out.
Yeah.
Going to my favorite place in the world.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. I need a break.
After theaters opened back up again, I made like a rule where I'm like, unless it's a special circumstance, I will only go to the theater in IMAX. Like, I won't go see a standard showing for a lot of the reasons you said. Like, typically, so IMAX tickets are more, and I don't have, like, an A-list or anything. And typically, if someone's going to see a movie in IMAX, like, they actually want to go see the movie. That's not always the case. I've still had some teenagers talking and stuff and families and whatnot.
That's a good point. Never thought about it.
Yeah, usually if you're paying $20 per ticket, it's because you're interested in this movie. So I made that decision, and it's a pricey decision. So for me and my wife, it's almost $50 just for the tickets, right? But it makes me go less, and it makes me like really decide like, oh, I actually want to see this movie. And the experience is usually better. And even if there are annoying people in there, it's literally so loud because it's IMAX that it actually drowns out most of it. So that's been good, and that's probably how I would see Thor if I went and saw it. But yeah, that the cost too, since I do that, also just adds on to like, well, maybe I don't have to see that one.
Shit, I have to wait 6 months to sign up again for A-lists. I should have been doing IMAX. Damn it.
Just go to Crocker. Well, there's no A list though, but
No, they have a. Don't they still have that?
Regal Unlimited. Yeah.
Regal Unlimited. Yeah. I can re-sign up for that. I think. Yeah. Did you see Everything Everywhere All at Once in IMAX?
No, I didn't see it in theaters at all, which is disappointing.
Oh.
But when it was out, first of all, that had a really limited release, and it took a while to get to Cleveland, so I was already behind. And then by the time it was out, I don't remember exactly what time of year it was, but it was around the time we had already seen another movie, like maybe Doctor Strange or something. And I was like, well, because my wife likes going to movies, but she's not, as into it as me. So it's like either I'm going by myself if it's something she doesn't want to see, or it's like whatever. So I was like, I'll just wait for it. It's 8:24. It won't be in theaters that long. And then it was fucking in theaters forever because of how successful it was. I was like, oh my god, I'm never gonna be able to see it. So I finally got to see it, and I loved it. I won't lie though, there was a part of me, like I was watching it down here. Obviously, I have a bigger TV. It's nice and everything, but I don't have like a great sound system. I was like, wow, seeing this in IMAX or even just in a theater would have been awesome, But I still really enjoyed it.
I loved it. I thought it was great. The kid actor from the Goonies is like one of the main dudes in it, which I think is awesome. Like just randomly came back to acting for that, and what a film to come back to and still kill it. My only complaint is this is no surprise, the length. There's a moment where in the final gimmick where you can tell like, okay, let's wrap it up. And I saw it in theaters, and I really had to piss like with an hour left, and the way they wrapped everything up was like so slow, and it's like they kept like dragging it on. Like there's one shot where she's going up a staircase, and you can literally see where it's going, and you have to instead of like you have to like you know what's about to happen, and you can see she has to go through all this shit to get there, and you're like, oh my god. Instead of like not knowing, okay, it's gonna wrap up, you see what they have to do. It's like, I gotta go, man. I feel like I would have enjoyed it more. One, if I had a better bladder, but two, it's like if I saw it at home, where I can like pause it an hour in, take a leak, and then come back and experience that whole ending. That might have been better, but I'm done with movie theaters though. So.
That's so funny because like I didn't even watch it all in one night. I mean, I think I told you like I watched like the first 15 minutes, and then we were just too tired that night. So then we finished it later on, and I guess I didn't really think about that part, but you're totally right. I mean, watching movies at home is great for that reason too, especially with a longer movie, being able to pause it whenever you want. But with that movie, there were definitely something. I think it was too long as well. But it's so refreshing, like seeing a film where you don't know any of the characters. It's completely new. It's not something like I mean, there's multiverse in it, but it's not like the same type of stuff we've been seeing. But it hit me, especially the end and the fact that I'm thinking the whole time, we're not going to get too heavy into spoilers, but I'm thinking the main story is going to be about her and her husband, and what they're going through. But then as the movie goes on, you realize it's more about her and her daughter. The husband is still, it's still part of it too, but that part really came it came as a surprise to me and really hit me pretty hard. Yeah, really good. But I think I wouldn't say I'm fully done with movie theaters. Like I said, I'll still go see Thor if I have the time. I'm definitely seeing Nope in theaters, which is in IMAX, so I'm definitely seeing that. I think we should see it together because we've seen both of Jordan Peele's films together.
We have, yeah.
So I think we should go see that.
Yeah, let's do that. Yeah, that'll be my last.
Your last one.
My last hurrah.
Well, maybe you can experience Crocker IMAX and see if you like it.
Yeah. Didn't you say like if no, like on one TikTok, didn't you say like if Nope fails, you're like done, like that's?
Oh yeah, that's my last hope.
Yeah, but I don't know. TV shows less expensive and less time consuming. I just sit there and watch it at home instead of having to drive to a movie theater. But stuff like The Boys is really good that I've been into lately. I'm reading the comics. I realize you can read comics online, so I've been reading that. But movies, man, just like I don't feel like going through a whole hour and a half arc. Right now it's like I don't know. It's really sad because I really like movies, but it's like I'm just like not into it right now. And with the show with Star Trek and everything, I'm definitely more into that type of storytelling.
Yeah, I think for me, I agree with you, and I've been doing much more enjoying of watching. I don't want to say like older movies, like they're all really old, but like movies that have been out for a few years that have already like the praise or the critical acclaim that and I haven't seen them. Like for example, a few months ago I watched Under the Skin with Scarlett Johansson. I don't know if you saw that movie, but
Uh,
for years I heard about that movie being really good. It's an A24 film, and I just didn't watch it. Finally watched it. It's like literally different than any other movie I've ever seen from like a direction standpoint. I mean, I would highly recommend watching it sometime, but it's insane. And it's not even that it's like the best movie ever or anything. It's just so different that it's like that's what I'm searching out now. You know what I mean? It's like
mhm.
new movies come out and they just feel above all else a lot just the same to me. Like they're all just like, "Yep, it's a movie. Here we go." So I'm looking for stuff like Under the Skin or Coherence was another one
Oh yeah,
that
yeah,
was great, or stuff like that. That's like, wow, this really challenges what I feel about movies, and it's really fun to see.
yeah. I really would like to see more movies that don't fall under the what's the word I'm looking for? Like the
Formula.
formula, where it's like we used to talk about in wrestling. Like there's you have your hot spot, your shot, blah blah blah. The same structure, and it feels like a lot of films fall under that. And I think people have been saying that for years, but it's like for me, it's like no, I still love movies, but it's like especially with the big blockbusters, it's really hitting me now. But yeah, I have a VHS player, and I'll just go to like thrift stores on the weekend and just look for like classics on there that I might not have seen. Because also you get really old trailers, like the worst trailers ever. It's like who saw this trailer in 1999 on this VHS and like I want to see that. It's like this is fucking awful, but it's so cool, but so nostalgic. I just watched I just watched Pearl Harbor on 2 VHS tapes because it's so long, and oh my god, it was okay.
I actually saw that movie in theaters as like a 5-year old. My dad took me, my older brother, and I don't remember much of it, obviously, but I only remember the sex scenes because I remember as a kid not having any idea what was going on. And isn't it like she cheats on one of them with the other or something? It's like, who is it, Matt Damon and Ben Affleck?
Ben Affleck dies. It's not Matt Damon. It's some other actor. I forget his name. But Ben Affleck dies, and like the other dude, like they, with the woman, they hook up, and then
Uh-huh.
like Ben Affleck's alive because he survived the crash, and like yeah,
So I just remember only that from the movie, and then I remembered, I guess, Ben Affleck being mad at him or whatever. And I was like, why was he mad at him? Like, I had no idea what was going on. But the second thing I wanted to say off of that with the TV shows is, obviously we don't do the channel for a living or anything, but it is true that it's like as soon as you start to do something, like a hobby, you start to do it for a purpose, it's harder to do it in your everyday life, I feel like. Like, we record 2 to 3 days a week of watching Star Trek and whatever else, Barry and stuff, and then it's like trying to watch a TV show outside of that to me, I just feel like, oh man, I'm spending a lot of my time watching TV shows. I'd rather like play Call of Duty or go play basketball, to me, but a part of that might just be that I haven't found like a show outside of what we're watching that's really hooked me in like you have with the boys and stuff. I've just been watching Seinfeld like whenever I watch regular TV. So
we should do that for the channel. Yeah, the boys I discovered before the channel, obviously, and it was so completely different and like so anti Disney, anti superhero corp, anti Marvel, and like they just make fun of them, and it's kind of refreshing. And Carl Urban as Billy Butcher's performance is like he was like born to play this role. And the main character Huey is was like based off of Simon Pegg. Like he looks exactly like Simon Pegg, like the comics, and they cast Simon Pegg as the dad of the character he was based on. But yeah, that's another thing where it's just like 8 episodes. It could be anywhere from 40 minutes to an hour, and it's just so refreshing. A few episodes in the season 3, I already watched it, and I already watched season 1 through 2 again, just for to have something on that I enjoy, where I can look back and maybe notice new things. But it's not like I have to like
yeah.
be fully sucked in. I just need to turn my brain off sometimes, which is nice. Also, I like rewatch Lord of the Rings just also in the background, just when I need to, like not think, because I've seen Lord of the Rings like 30 fucking times, but
Yeah.
it's like one of those comfort type things, I guess.
So Star Trek's pretty good.
Star Trek is really good.
I think it's really interesting that I mean, this is kind of a peel behind the curtain, but when we actually were starting, this was completely your idea to watch Star Trek. My initial thoughts on Star Trek, my whole life, I had always just thought of it as like something that I never had any interest in watching, and I don't know why, because nothing ever turned me off about it. I just was like, oh yeah, Star Trek, I know is a thing people watch, but oh well.
Yeah, my grandfather watched like Star Trek: The Next Generation. I'm pretty sure he had remember being in his like his little man cave. He had like the VHS box sets, and I'm like, oh, what's that? But like I always grew up with Star Wars, and like the stigma around that was like, Star Trek sucks, Star Wars, it's like it was the fandom versus fandom, and I never really understood why because I never saw any piece of Star Trek media ever. Like I just knew like Family Guy made fun of William Shatner a couple times. We're really big fans of Red Letter Media, and I recently discovered their channel within the past like year, and I just went on a binge of like all their videos, even of stuff I didn't watch, and their review show where they talked about Star Trek: The Next Generation, the way they talked about some episodes, like this sounds really interesting, and so I'm like, hey, for the channel, like we should like if we've never seen it, that might be interesting to try, like interesting just like for something to try, not like knowing like this is gonna take off because when it did, it was like holy shit, like there's this whole fandom just surfing the internet, like trying to find people who are watching it for the first time and want to, like, experience it again or just like share some insight and knowledge. And boy, do they. And
Yeah.
we appreciate it because it's like, holy shit, there's a lot out there. Let's go into expectations for the show, for Star Trek. What I thought the show was just a piece of media that came out in the 60s that was goofy science fiction, rubber suits, like maybe like 20 minutes long, just goofy science fiction. That's all I thought it was. And then we loaded up the first episode. It said 50 minutes. I'm like, what? What? I thought, I thought we were getting a break from long stuff, but it surely didn't feel like it once we got into it. But
Yeah, I had zero expectations at all. I mean, we're obviously on the same page for our exposure to it, and I kind of was aware of the campiness, but I didn't think of it as like this campy product. I literally had no idea, and the closest I had ever come to it was like USS Callister we talked about in one of our reactions, the Black Mirror episode, and even after watching the first season of this, even that Black Mirror episode is nothing like Star Trek. It's just like a very like surface level, like this is what Star Trek looks like,
mm-hmm.
But from a fan's perspective, I mean, the show is so deep that I had no idea.
Like everything is played as real as it is, and it throws you right in. Like no establishment, no like they're getting on the spaceship. It's like I think it starts with them beaming down to a planet.
Ship Surgeon McCoy and myself are now beaming down to the planet's surface.
And like, sure, the set, it's a late '60s set. It's not gonna have, it's not gonna look the best, but it still looked good. And it's just like, okay, all right. No, I was just zoned in. I wasn't like, oh, look at how goofy this is. I'm like, I'm in. Cool. What's happening? And it's like, it just started going, and you're like, I don't know who these people are, but it's like it worked. It's so weird. I can't think of any other TV show that could try that today and get away with it because people are so conditioned to like TV shows now are just long movies. Like TV shows back then were like single episodes where it's like we didn't need an establishment for each character and for the build for seasons on. It's like it kind of just threw you in. But like TV shows today are movies where it's like first season's basically like the first act or the first few episodes of the first act. And like it teaches you everything. But back then it was just like people weren't like tuning in like people are tuning in now. It's like, let's turn on an episode of what's on TV. Oh, what's this? So anyone can come on, turn it on, and see what's on the TV and not feel left out.
But yeah, I think that for me, I really enjoyed the first episode. But then seeing the comments is what surprised me when people were like, "Oh, this was just like a Monster of the Week episode. This is not a strong episode," and we really enjoyed it. So I was like, "Oh wow, like if that's the case, like that's." And then the next few episodes, I really started to understand like, oh okay, like I get what people are saying, and uh, that's what surprised me the most about it was the character stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Even with everything you're saying about it being episodic, and we talked about this all the time throughout the season, is that like if you are a regular watcher, the show really rewards you, not in like a continuity way, but in just like a little character moments, little character growth that like by the end of the season, we really like these characters, and it doesn't matter that the stories didn't all connect or all culminate into a big thing because
Mm-hmm.
it's like we're just along for the ride for whatever these characters do. And that's what TV was like back then. I haven't seen a ton of TV shows from that time, but I think that Star Trek probably did it very well, which is probably why it was so popular.
And why it inspired literally like every piece of media ever. But yeah, you're right. It totally rewards you for watching it, but there's no like evidence that it's continual. It's just like
Mm-hmm.
we're just seeing more of them. We watched like the season finale and we said, this could have been like episode 1. This could have been episode 2 with the way it is. It just, the more you watch, the more you feel rewarded and for noticing how these characters interact. There's little moments like when Spock first does a Vulcan neck grip and like Kirk says, "Oh, you gotta teach me that sometime." It's like little, I don't know, little things like that.
I'd like you to teach me that sometime.
And like perfect example, the neck grip, he's doing it throughout the season. It's getting thrown in there. Then in that last episode when he gets infected and he's going for it on Kirk and they stop him.
Yeah,
if that's the first episode you're watching, you don't notice that.
TV's been around forever, and how many TV shows are out there that are similar to this and also have strong character, plot points, ideas that set up like years of media today? Or maybe it's just lost, where it had a great idea, but it was just lost in its time. And it's like people always say what's old is new. It's like how many TV shows are out there where it's like, oh my God, there's a gold mine sitting in the early 80s that everyone forgot about. That could be a great concept.
That's one of the biggest benefits of streaming services, I think. If Star Trek wasn't on Paramount Plus, not only could we not watch it for the channel, but like we just probably would have never watched it. And like that's probably a big reason why I didn't watch it throughout the years. Like because it's more TV than it is movies, even though they have movies. But it's like, how am I going to go watch Star Trek the original series before Paramount Plus? You know, you could probably find physical media and purchase it, but it's like if I've never watched the show, why am I going to go do that?
Yeah.
You know, so
Yeah.
finding, or like Zack Stone's going to be famous on Netflix, like finding stuff like that, I think is the biggest benefit of, you know, modern streaming, is having all their backlogged stuff on there. The hard part is just finding it though, like you said.
I'm in the boat where there's too many streaming services that are too like expensive for. It's just too much. But when you have stuff like that where you can find and pluck for something like this, then it's okay. There's good and bad sides to all these streaming services.
For sure. So to get a little bit more into the actual show itself, do you want to go over like what were your, just off the top of your head, some of like your favorite moments from the first season?
The quips between Kirk, Spock, and McCoy, that whole three-way relationship, just how Kirk is like, he's like the center, like of both, like not good and evil, but good and bad, but just like yin and yang, and McCoy and Spock are like those two aspects separated, where it's like he has his logic on one shoulder and his heart, his compassion on the other one, and like there's even shots where they're both behind him, like angel and devil on the shoulder.
She's a very good lawyer.
Obviously. Indeed she is.
The reveal of Clint Howard in the corporate night maneuver.
Yeah.
That was hilarious.
Yeah.
Obviously, for one, because it's Clint Howard. But
Yeah,
even
yeah.
if it wasn't, the whole reveal of it being this like man baby at the end of this whole series plot. That was one of the moments where, again, I feel like it kind of clicked for me what Star Trek was, and I was like, this is hilarious. And then it being Clint Howard was just like an added bonus. But yeah, I loved that moment.
Yeah, it's not afraid to be goofy. It could be totally serious. The lighting, the music, the atmosphere, but it can also just it can be cartoony as well. It's like it's never just too far to one side. It mixes and balances a lot of things perfectly. Like episode where like 500,000 people have to die, like in A Taste of Armageddon, and also one where they're just like on a vacation land, like it's like, you know, there's fucking when was it McCoy who saw the bunny, like
Yeah.
and we were just like, what is going on?
Oh, my paws and whiskers. I'll be late.
Yeah, for sure. That was a great one, Shore Leave. That was one of the, I would say one of the oddest episodes and probably one of the funniest episodes.
Yeah, I think I'll get into more favorite moments as we go, like
Sure.
by our episodes.
Who would you say is your favorite character or top three characters? Or obviously we have the big three, right? So it's like it's hard for anyone to top them. But
Yeah.
who would your favorite be of that if you can choose? And then also if there's any side characters that are like kind of your favorite side character in the first season.
At first I wasn't a big fan of Bones, but then he like grew on me like so hard. Like I don't know, like he was kind of like an asshole in the early episodes, but then he really he became like a charming asshole, like kind of like a Han Solo-ish type, where it's like, oh, I love this guy, and he became funny with his jokes.
By golly, Jim, I'm beginning to think I can cure a rainy day.
Well, dude, it's like you basically.
It's
like
me.
It's like someone who doesn't know you that well. Like, oh, is he an asshole? It's like, yeah, you just don't know him.
You don't know him yet.
And then as you watch more episodes, you're like, oh, okay.
I gotta go. I think Spock's my favorite, man. And the next is like a three-way tie between Scotty, McCoy, and Kirk. Like the if there was a big four, I'd say. But I love but Sulu too.
Yeah,
I
it's
can't
hard.
pick. I can't pick,
pick,
man.
yeah.
I can't.
I gotta say it's the generic answer, but I probably would say Kirk. As much as I love Spock and McCoy, as far as the big three goes, I feel like the way that they frame Kirk to be like the best of both worlds between those two characters is done so well. If they did it poorly, then he wouldn't be my favorite. But they do it so well, and then in addition to that, plot wise, he's put through so much in the first season already, just from like an emotional, like Spock and McCoy, they have their own stories and they have cool things go on, but I feel like Kirk, obviously as the main character, as the captain, gets put through so much that it's hard not to relate to him. Like it's hard not to love him by the end of the season.
Starfleet Control. Repeating message. The Enterprise is home.
Yeah, I gotta say though, my favorite side character is probably Uhura. I mean, she's not a huge role in the show, obviously, but it's like anytime she's like, involved, like she's always on her shit, like she's always knows what's going on. And there's so many times in the season that Kirk will like say something to her, which as the captain, he's the captain, he can do whatever he wants. Within reason, right? But like anytime he kind of raises his voice at her, because he'll talk shit to McCoy, he'll talk shit to Spock, and they kind of take it. Like they kind of like are like, oh shit, he's mad at me.
Yeah,
But he
yeah.
does it to Uhura, and she's like stands up to him.
At least try cutting him off. Sir, if I could cut him off, don't you think
Like she doesn't let it fly. She does it respectfully though.
Yeah.
And she does, stays in her chain of command or whatever. She doesn't go overboard.
Yes, sir, I'll keep trying.
Sorry.
Yeah, like a well-respected character and like a strong female character too. I mean, like early late '60s, I mean, some of the women like wear like ridiculous outfits or revealing outfits. It's like okay, this is a product of that time. But like Uhura was like the one constant where it's like does her takes no shit, does her job, well respected. Isn't like talked down to or anything. That's pretty progressive for that time.
But it's not like that for the sake of it, like it's not progressive for the sake of it. Like it's like she's just genuinely a
Yeah.
good character
Yeah.
and a really good actress
Yeah.
in the first season. So, yeah, I guess we can jump in then to our top 5. Do you want to go first?
I will go first. Paper. I am prepared. My 5th favorite episode is.
Oh wait, I'm sorry, real quick to interrupt you. Should we do some honorable mentions first, or do that afterwards?
Let's do honorable mentions first.
First,
I'm glad you brought that up.
You can start first.
Mud's Women. Honorable mention.
These starships are really something marvelous. But men will always be men no matter where they are.
Harry Mudd. It's just because very strong, goofy character that makes it a memorable episode. I mean, a lot of the stuff I don't remember from it, but it's like Harry Mudd's performance, and I think the top comment on that video was like Simpson, the original Simpson never win story, and the twist at the end of that.
She took no drug.
I swallowed it.
Colored gelatin.
You're either confident in yourself or you're not.
Yeah. So that's my first honorable mention.
Shit, okay, if we're only saying one, I'd probably have to go with the Cobra Knight maneuver. It was in my top 5 for a long time watching the show. I really enjoyed it. Not even just the reveal at the end, but the whole episode and the whole plot of it. It did eventually fall out of my top 5, but yeah, I really liked that one.
We must drink. This is Tranya. I hope you relish it as much as I.
That's one of my honorable mentions as well. I have 2 others. I have Arena and Squire of Gothos.
Okay.
Yeah, Arena for being one of the most famous Star Trek episodes and great fight choreography, and Squire of Gothos because it was the God complex, but it wasn't like repetitive in like the first 3 episodes. In the episodes 2 and 3, where it was like 2 God complexes like back to back, and it's like oh my god. But Squire of Gothos was a bit different, and the reveal at the end and trying to figure it out, and it's like how much is the Squire playing with them and how much are they figuring out. That all I really enjoy.
I never have any fun.
Stop that nonsense at once, or you'll not be permitted to make any more planets.
Just to name a couple more, I got to put in the Man Trap. I know it's not a favorite, but among the community, from what I've seen anyway, but maybe it's coming from like a first-time watching perspective, but that first episode, like we're never going to be able to replicate that. Like we went from never ever seeing Star Trek we watched that episode, and it was shocked me so much how different it was from what I expected. I mean, we said it in our reaction, not at all what we expected. And even though it isn't really like most Star Trek episodes in the first season, it's much more reminiscent of like the Twilight Zone or like a Monster of the Week type show. Wow, I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I still remember the reveal when like the lady is switching to the monster, and we were both like, "What?"
Yes.
Yeah, I'll never forget that. Yeah.
And then kind of a cheat, but the two-parter, the Menagerie, even though it's 2 episodes, that whole plot where we got to see footage from the cage, which we will never watch. No, I just like to say that to bother people, but we might watch it eventually. We just got a comment the other day from somebody. Why didn't you watch the cage? They commented on the first episode, so I just think that's funny. But no, we got to see some of that footage, and then the relationship between Spock and Kirk the whole time, where like Spock is legitimately being what do you call it, like a treasonous or whatever, and Kirk is like trusting him, like doesn't want to give up on him. Great for their relationship. And the ending reveal of the guy not being real there at the end, the other like court guy, yeah, really loved those.
Like Kirk having so much faith in Spock, where if Spock's gonna go against the grain and disobey orders, it has to be for a good reason, and it was for his original captain. How about that?
Do you know what you're doing? Have you lost your mind?
Captain, Jim, please. Don't stop me.
And what's funniest to me too, this is a real life story. I had never heard that word before, menagerie. And then right after, like a few weeks after we watched those, my wife's grandfather said the word, and not in context of Star Trek, but like said something else, like, "Oh, what a menagerie!" Like he said it. And I'm like, that's one of those things where like if I hadn't have seen the episode, I'd have no idea what he would be talking about. And you ever like hear a word for the first time, and then it pops up like in your life afterwards, like oddly all the time.
You're like, oh, that's what that meant. Yeah.
Yeah, I just thought that was funny. All right, well, you can go ahead and jump in. You can start with your number 5. And just before anyone knows, these are our lists, which means they're objective fact. If you disagree, you're wrong. So.
My number 5 is A Taste of Armageddon.
Deaths have been registered. Of course, they have 24 hours to report.
To report?
To our disintegration machines.
That was a very unique idea, a very fascinating episode in terms of war and like how in society the way things are like not programmed, like programmed. Like if we've been doing the same thing, like I don't know, paying taxes or whatever, we've been paying taxes our entire lives. It's like we wouldn't really think anything. It's the way we've always done things. It's like, and that's how this society was that they visited. It's like we've been doing this war for even before we were born. For it's like we haven't even thought of not doing it. It's like at the risk of changing, fear of change. I guess it's like we don't want to actually blow up. This is the way it is. If we lose this computer battle, we have to go into disintegration stuff.
Yeah, it's kind of like that story of the monkeys in the cage, where you give them, put a banana and they all fight each other, and slowly one by one you replace the monkeys, and eventually it's 5 all new monkeys who all beat each other up, but they don't know why.
They don't know why, yeah.
And that's how business policies are made, right?
Yeah. And also, sir, there's a multi-legged creature crawling on your shoulder. Neck pinch.
Oh yeah. Great moment.
It's like it's like so like not Spock to like say that, but it also it's in that quirky little thing where it's like you could have just walked up to him and just like did it, because like I don't even think the guy like looked away.
Yeah, he just did it.
I think he just did it, yeah.
And then I think it showed him like drag him away, and the other people were still just standing there, like they witnessed the whole thing. That's great.
Yeah. How about you?
So my number 5, I think this is going to be a surprise one. You tell me, but I'm going to go with What Little Girls Are Made Of. Nurse Chapel's husband or fiance is a robot. Mm-hmm. Everyone ends up being robots. I really love that episode. Also, Ruck is like the most unique, in my opinion, like character that we had in the first season that actually like has lines and isn't just like a monster. Like we didn't really see anything else like him. I thought he was really interesting.
Yeah, like he was a villain, but it wasn't just like Frankenstein. Like he was intelligent and like worked with this dude. He was super strong, and yeah, the whole robot reveal and them all being robots. That was. That was cool.
And they really like dove into it, like when he's like, oh, touch her skin, like it's warm, like going into how much they're like humans. And then when Kirk gets duplicated, and he's like, oh, she's like, oh, eat your food, and he's like, androids don't eat, and it's like, oh, you didn't know he was the duplicate.
Yeah.
There was a lot of great moments in that, and it's I don't know, for me, it was an earlier on in the season. I think it was like episode 7 or something.
Yeah.
So it was also like we were still settling into what the show was, and that one really interested me. And we didn't really get to see much others like that so far, so I really liked it. What's your number 4?
My number 4 is This Side of Paradise.
You were told to report to me at once.
I didn't want to, Jim.
I knew it was like one of my favorites, like right away, where it's going to be interesting when, because throughout the whole season they always set up as Kirk as a love interest. You know, like the woman comes in, blonde hair, it's glowing always, but instead of like cutting to Kirk, it cuts to Spock, and we're like, what? Like he has a love interest, and seeing the whole crew like be affected by these flowers, and become lazy, like no need to like change, like just like content, and just seeing Leonard Nimoy get to be all goofy and be like, it's like all that was super fun, and then it ends with like one of the saddest lines ever that just like breaks my heart.
For the first time in my life, I was happy.
It's like, oh
Yeah.
He's able to experience all that emotion, not have to like, Bill Burr shove that shit down. He's able to like be happy with his woman, and like also on Kirk's side, like everyone had trouble like breaking the spell. Like to break the spell, he had to get mad or whatever, and like Kirk was able to break it because of his like love and care for his ship and his people, and like we were confused. I was confused watching it, but then it was explained like, oh, that makes a lot of sense because he's like such like a diehard captain for his crew.
I don't think that's a good enough excuse, though. Obviously, I saw the comments too, and it's like I get it, like I totally understand that, but this is for every episode of the season that we've watched. The whole point is that we're watching it for the first time, and we're not going to understand everything. We're not going to catch everything. We're not the smartest, like omnipresent,
Yeah.
There's literally stuff that'll be like on screen or that they'll actually say that we miss. So we're not going to catch everything. But with that being said, if the show doesn't portray it to us in a way that we can understand in our first watch, then even if you comment and like explain it to us, and that's great, we appreciate that, that doesn't like excuse the show. So like for me, it came across as weakly explained as to why Kirk could overcome it. I understand the reasoning of loving the ship. They could have done it, I think, a little bit stronger. With that being said, it's more of a Spock-focused episode, and you can't fit everything into 50 minutes. I get all that. But I did just want to address that, because sometimes people will comment things, and we appreciate the explanations, but not everybody, not most people, but some people will leave a little bit of like a condescending tone when like we don't understand something, and it's like, well, hey, maybe the show should explain it better, so that you don't have to.
I like the idea of it, but yeah, I didn't get it on first watch. It's like, why did he break free? But I guess I'm explaining. Yeah.
Number 4 for me, controversial, I think. City on the Edge of Forever.
Do you know what you just did? He knows, Doctor.
A lot of people's favorite. A lot of people said one of their favorites or absolute favorite of the whole show, not just season 1. I really loved it. For me, the only reason it's not higher is because I like the other episodes more, obviously, right? That's the point of the list. But I really loved the episode. Awesome ending, awesome twist, great. They finally delivered on the Earth setting, where I'm like, they're using Earth as a setting and they're wasting it. They did it like a number of times. They finally paid it off in this one, and I loved it. I'm assuming it's on your list too, so I know you're not going to say a ton about it right now, but it had like this movie feel to it. Like the story was bigger than just like a normal episode of Star Trek. And we talked about in our discussion how we would have liked it to be a little bit longer because of that. It could have been like a TV movie, in my opinion.
I don't want to go too far into it yet, but yeah, man, that was one of those ones where it's like it just nailed like every beat. It's 50 minutes jam-packed. First 3 minutes of exposition, you're like, oh my, what's happening? And they set up that earlier plot point of, like, they did a little subversion, like, they don't know whether he saves her or kills her, and that whole mystery, it's like, what does he have to do?
And him jumping into Earth in the 30s, McCoy specifically, is like one of the cool shots of the whole season of him like jumping through and the homeless man just like looking at him.
Yeah, I remember when we reacted too. We were like, "Oh, that shit!"
Yeah, and then he's like, "I won't kill you.
I won't kill you. I won't." It's like you don't say that. What year? What planet are we on?
Number 3.
My number 3 is The Naked Time.
We salute at last.
Sulu, put that thing away.
Queen.
The opening is very reminiscent of a scene from The Thing. I bet it was inspired by, where everything's frozen. It's like, oh, this is interesting. This is neat. And like you see little bug, little virus thing crawl up into this guy, and we kept trying to figure out what is it, like what is it doing, and it turns out like it's just like water, and it's like water, and it makes everyone drunk, and it's like everyone's acting so different because alcohol like affects everyone differently, like. And that's the first time we see Leonard Nimoy break down, like with emotions, and like seeing that was like super fucking cool. Like, with the one dude was like singing. We got to see Sulu like shirtless and jacked, fencing, and I did a little research here. Apparently, like Sulu had to like learn how to fence for that, and like on set he was walking around like actually like trying to fence people, stabbing people, and like everyone complained so much. Where it's like we're all gonna quit if George Takei ever gets a sword again.
That's pretty hilarious.
And this was actually supposed to be a two-parter originally, with a time travel story, but eventually it was cut to one episode, and the second half became tomorrow's yesterday. And it's George Takei's favorite episode. And you know that there's footage of this episode that appears in the X-Men film Days of Future Past?
Oh, really?
Yeah, apparently, yeah.
That's my favorite X-Men movie, so I gotta go figure that out.
Me too. I want to rewatch it now and see where it's at. How do you feel with the Naked Son? Did you talk about it already?
No, I haven't, and it's not on my list, but it's like definitely top 10, and it's like right after the honorable mentions I named. It'd be like right after that, like if I kept going into my top 10. I really loved the episode. I think it just. There's so many good episodes. Like you just can't, as much as I love it, it's like I just like the other ones more. That's really all it is. There's almost nothing bad I have to say about that episode. One of, in my opinion, your funniest comments of the whole season. We took that end job a little too seriously. I think that's hilarious. And even when they go down there at the beginning and they're wearing like these like hazmat suits, but they just look ridiculous. I love that episode. I could see that on rewatches becoming more, higher up my list. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. My number 3 is Arena. I think it's awesome. And I think that it's awesome because it's goofy. There's a lot of the episodes that have goofy stuff in them. I think this one specifically is awesome because it's goofy. Like, that is directly why it is so good. If it was more serious or less campy, it wouldn't have been as good of an episode, because you have, like, him fighting this lizard man, and it's just such a ridiculous, like, scenario that if it ended up being, like, better looking or not as campy, I don't think I would have liked it as much. So as far as camp goes, it's my favorite episode when it comes to that. And then also the beginning, like them actually getting blown up, like on that planet. I was like, oh my god, it's actually them, like running around. William Shatner, I guess, like the comment said, got tinnitus from that episode. Like that was nuts, and that hooked me in right away, and I loved the whole thing.
Everything landed, yeah. Even with the goofy suit, like everything still landed. Like nothing felt like, oh my god. Like a clip on Twitter, like seeing like them fight with no context of everything before or after. Yeah, you might think, okay, this looks goofy as hell, but like, when you're in it, it's like everything landed. Like it didn't feel like, oh my god, look at this.
When he throws the fucking rock and it just hits him in the chest and bounces off, and then when he's like the gourd sharpening his knife and he starts laughing, like it was just all so cheesy and ridiculous. But yeah, it was awesome.
Yeah, them also being able to communicate with like their communicator for some reason. It's like, oh, we'll give you this so you can talk to each other. It's like, I want to find you.
But like, I don't even know if Kirk was aware, because he was like making notes as if he was doing a log, and then at the end, the Gorn's like, "I've heard it all."
That's right.
That's great. That's definitely one. If someone hasn't watched Star Trek, that's one I would definitely show people.
Yeah.
It's just, I'd be like, this isn't every episode, but this is hilarious.
That's probably 6. Honorable mention. That's got to be 6. Absolutely.
What's your number 2?
Number 2, The Enemy Within. This one really emphasized how good they are with lighting, and how Shatner is with acting, and how he could totally separate himself and play these two different versions, and us trying to figure out what's happening. Like, is this a clone? Is this whatever? But no, he was literally split in half because of the problem with the beam. and also the ridiculous dog. Shout out to that poor fucking dog wearing that ridiculous costume.
He's dead, Jim. When the dog's dead.
And it was inspired by the Jekyll and Hyde story, obviously. And apparently there's a part where like Spock was supposed to like hit evil Kirk with like his phaser, but like Leonard Nimoy like was unhappy with the idea of Spock doing that. Like Spock wouldn't do that, so that's where they came up with the idea of the Vulcan neck pinch with like Shatner's help. Like they came up with that type. Like this is something that Spock would do. Like
Yeah, and I heard that, yeah, it was solely the actors, and they didn't even tell, like, the people making the show, like Roddenberry and stuff, and I think I saw in the comments that he got, like, yelled at after that, like Leonard Nimoy. Like, they were like, hey, don't do that. Like, tell us when you're going to do something. But then it became one of the most famous things in the show.
ask for forgiveness, not for permission.
Exactly, yeah. Yeah, I love this episode. I think it's really good. The only thing that I think that takes away from it is, like, the joking at the end with Janice after she was just sexually assaulted. They handle it really well throughout the whole episode, and then at the end they're just like joking about it for some reason. It's really weird.
That stuff was really uncomfortable, but
But it was uncomfortable in like a good way, as like it should be uncomfortable. Like there's a sexual assault happening, like a rape attempt, and then they handle it well, and then at the end they just throw that away. That's like the only thing that bothers me. But if I can excuse that last scene, yeah, I really like that episode too.
the trick photography of them like both being on screen, like the two Kirks, and like I'm like, holy shit, they did this pretty well for back then. It's like it's almost seamless. Like the double they had for Kirk was like literally like perfection. Like when it was like the back of his head, I'm like, holy shit.
My number 2, you already talked about it. This Side of Paradise is my number 2. I said while watching it, I was pretty open about how much I loved it. I was hoping the whole season for a Spock-centered episode that was done well. They tried it with Galileo 7, but that is not an episode I like. That might be one of my least favorite because it attempts to be a Spock-centered episode that just isn't executed well, in my opinion. This one was executed well, and it's mostly about him. And whoever that, I forget her name again, but the actress that played his love interest, one of the best one-off characters in the whole season, in my opinion. She had me emotional, and I don't even know this woman. We don't know her before this episode. We don't know anything about their previous relationship, but that scene at the end where they're on the bridge or on the ship, and she's talking to him about being sad that, you know, he's not going to come with her, I'm like, wow, man, that hit me.
Do you mind if I say I still love you?
Yeah, the way they crafted that dialogue, you can tell like the actors, you know, like they crafted that whole backstory in their heads, and through their performance, we were able to feel it and see it. Like, oh, these two probably went through a lot, and it's like, and then it's over. It's like for the first time in his life, he was happy, and it's over.
It's going to be hard for any end of an episode to top that. I mean, that was so rough.
Well,
Well, you might.
If there's one ending that'll top that, in my opinion, it's my number 1 that we already said, which is The City on the Edge of Forever.
Jim, Edith Keeler must die.
And I found like the most notes on this episode. Like, whoo, it's like this is a favorite episode of like Roddenberry, Kirk, Spock, you know, the actors, not obviously the characters, and even Carl Urban, who plays McCoy in the 2009 film franchise. The final line, "Let's get the hell out of here," like apparently caused problems for the network, but both like Shatner and Roddenberry like fought to keep it in. Like it's got it because it says hell in like a negative context. It's like, nah, man, we got to keep that in.
Let's get the hell out of here.
It's so refreshing to have like an unhappy ending. It's like, you know, there's endings where it's like they always make jokes about Spock. You know, it's like him not having emotions and they're just laughing on the bridge. But this one, it's like, let's get the hell out of here, and then just you know,
ends.
it's like, and like a lot happened. It was like basically a little movie, and like little goofy moments, like Spock having to wear a beanie the entire episode, like to hide his ears, and Kirk wearing a lumberjack thing, and we always make jokes about like Kirk's love interest, and it's like, oh, you know, just met this woman, he's in love with her. But in this episode, they're together for like a whole week, and like the weight of her death weighs a lot more because we know they built this relationship up, and it wasn't just like they knew each other for a day. So that death hit a lot harder, and the mystery of them not knowing what they need to do with Edith is like, because they get little glimpses, because Spock's building a machine where they're able to see like what happens.
We were saying about them being together for a week. I mean, we literally see them go out on dates, and I commented while we were watching, like, this is so cool to see, like, Kirk, the captain of the Enterprise, like, just going on dates, you know, on Earth
Yeah.
with this woman and, like, forming this bond. And I think her name is Joan Collins, the actress who plays Edith, also does a great job. And I really bought their relationship, even though it's really not, like, it doesn't go that deep into it in the episode. You buy it because they're both, such good actors.
Yeah. The director said that working on this episode was like the closest to the work and challenge of a feature film. And Roddenberry claimed he could have saved like $20,000 on the budget if he didn't use high quality sets and casting, because the set was very convincing. Obviously the casting was fucking perfect. Bones' performance, it's always nice to see a character go against what they usually do. Like Spock when he has emotion, and like Bones going fucking crazy, and the makeup, and like arguably one of his best performances in the show. And it's like he wasn't really playing himself, but like they gave him that like range to go, and like seeing him slowly slip back into himself, but still, you know, being like he's smart, but he's still a bit crazy, and like trying to figure that out as the episode goes on, and him coming back to himself. And it's weird. It's like the big when the big three come together. It felt like such like a well-deserved happy moment, but it's just one episode where they were separated. Like they're separated all the time throughout the show, but when they came together, it was like yay!
Yeah. So my number one is Enemy Within.
I'm Captain Kirk!
It's my favorite episode. I know I talked shit about the ending, but that does bother me a little bit. But I think this episode is a masterpiece. I feel about this episode like how you do about City on the Edge of Forever, and how a lot of people, it seems online, feel about City on the Edge of Forever. I think this episode is like just insane. I mean, my favorite moment so far is the "I'm Captain Kirk" from the other Kirk. It's just excellent. Just everything about the episode, the entire story, I love. Fucking Sulu and them trapped down on the planet because they can't bring them up, because if they do, they might get duplicated. And the funniest joke of the whole season when he's like,
"Do you think you might be able to find a long rope somewhere and lower us down a pot of hot coffee?"
It's like, oh, he's so good. He's such a good character. It's so great. I mean, even the more silly stuff, like the duplicate getting the scratch, and then he finds the makeup and puts it on. It's like the makeup just perfectly matches his face. But then, like in the next scene, you see the scratches anyway, so it's like pointless.
Kirk's sweater, Kirk's leisure sweater, the
yes.
best. Yeah. Some of my favorite. I already talked about some things, but there's also like one moment where it's like one of my favorite cuts ever, where I think you see Kirk and like good Kirk and someone leave through one of the door's cut, and then like, and then evil Kirk comes in the frame. It's like,
I think it's like
oh!
his hand comes in.
Yeah. And just the way it's like a light switch, like night and day, where it goes from evil Kirk to like good Kirk. And I think they use like makeup on evil Kirk, but it's like, it's so believable that it's two different people. It's like you can tell like that good Kirk has no idea what evil Kirk has done, and you can just see it in his eyes. Somehow he like crafted where it's like he doesn't even register that happened, but he had to because it's the same fucking actor.
It's amazing. And even so, like there's the "I'm Captain Kirk" moment, but then at the end too, when he's on the bridge and everyone kind of knows at this point that he's the fake one, and he's like, he's like sweating and he's looking around, and then he like throws the one dude. Like it's just so great.
Yeah, when he comes onto the bridge, I remember like, oh no.
I'm the captain! Don't you understand? I'm captain of the ship! I'm the captain! This is my ship!
It's over the top a little bit, but it's my favorite because it's over the top, but like done well, kind of like with Arena. But then Kirk does have things in like City on the Edge of Forever and other episodes where it's much more subdued, and like he's really good at kind of like the very subtle acting too. So that's why I loved like seeing him be able to do this like over the top one. Yeah, that's good. That's definitely my favorite. So yeah, that's our list. I'll maybe I'll put them on the screen if I'm not too lazy in the editing.
Should we talk about ones we don't like?
Yeah, I guess. I already said I don't like Galileo 7. That's probably one of my least favorite. You want my really hot take?
Yeah.
I didn't like Balance of Terror. And everyone loves that. It's our second most watched video.
Balance of Terror.
That's the one with the Romulans where they're like doing the war.
Yeah, that one was pretty weak.
And I think here's why. I think I didn't understand the episode that it was going to be, like, and the ending of it, I think, is the best part, where they're, like, having the chat, like, the Romulan ship is blowing up, and he's, like, talking to Kirk over the video chat. I was so out of the episode. That was one of the only episodes where I had checked out, like, 25, 30 minutes in. I'm like, this episode isn't for me. But a lot of people like it, and that's also one of our most disliked videos, because because we were honest about how we felt, and we get a lot of our negative comments on that one. And I respect that. If you like that episode, that's awesome. But for me, that's one of my least favorite.
I think my least favorite one, maybe, like Dagger of the Mind, I think, where it's like...
A weaker one?
Yeah, where he just keeps like, oh, like he wants to have this thing like fucking like zapping his brain. But why? And like there's no repercussion at the end either. The one with like the two dudes in time, where everyone's like, oh, this is the worst one. I actually didn't think it was the worst.
Alternative factor?
Yeah, I didn't think it was the worst one, and I just wanted to bring this up. My favorite moment is him falling off the cliff. Ah!
Why did he fall off the cliff?
I thought that episode was okay. I just wanted to bring up that moment. But yeah, Dagger of the Mind SP. I think my least favorite.
Miri is another one I have to bring up. I didn't like Miri. I even said that. I said that when we watched it. Not a fan of that. I kind of go into that more in that reaction. I'll leave it there. Essentially the entire episode. I just don't like. The bad episodes are fine. Like, it's not like they're horrendous television. Like, I still enjoyed watching a lot of them. There's stuff you can laugh at or stuff I generally enjoy. I'm hard pressed. Like, even Miri or Galileo 7, those are probably my two least favorite. Like, there's stuff in there that maybe not Miri. Well, the bonk on the head. What does he say in Miri? He's like, blah, blah, blah. No, blah, blah, blah.
Oh, they're all kids, but then the one dude was like a 40-year-old man. Our favorite episodes are just all like everything lands, where there's no moment where it's like, yeah. I mean, maybe little moments where it's like, but it's like, the 5 that we have each are like, they got it.
Yeah, but everyone's going to ignore all the praise we gave all those, and they're just going to get mad and comment about the stuff we just said, about the episodes we don't like. Neither of us mentioned Space Seed with Khan in our honorable mention or top or disliked. I really liked the episode, but it just wasn't one of my favorites. I just really liked it.
Yeah, I just feel like it's talked about because of Khan. Yeah, where it's like years later, what if we made a movie? It's like...
I mean, even our reaction, we knew who Khan was,
yeah,
so we were like, well, wow.
This drew pop culture and media. We've heard of Khan, but before we saw it, if you asked me what Khan looked like, I wouldn't know what to tell you. It's like, I have no idea. I just heard the name. Also, we didn't talk about any of the court episodes.
Court Martial was good.
Yeah.
I talked about the Menagerie a little bit.
Oh, yeah, that is a court episode.
Kind of.
Like, the one with, could have been a lot better, but the one where, because I like good establishment where it's like, the first, 10 seconds just tells you everything you need to know about the character. When they introduce Kirk's lawyer and he's just surrounded by books, and it's like...
Yeah, in Court Martial?
Yeah, it's like, okay. I love those little moments where you can just tell everything about him right away, where you don't have to, figure it out through dialogue, or even the first 10 seconds of dialogue. It's like, I got this character. I got it.
Yeah, I really love the season, and in one spot it's like, how can Season 2 be better than this? But then a lot of people have commented that Season 2 is the best season of any Star Trek show ever.
Oh, that makes me so excited.
So it's like, I believe it, though, because you've had this first season of us getting to know the characters, but also the actors getting to know the characters and the writers and everything. And they're going to, just expand on that in Season 2, so I'm really excited.
Yeah, I'm sure they'll recognize their mistakes from the weaker episodes and hopefully just put it into and make it better.
Yeah, and then I just hope to see, no spoilers, please, in the comments, but I hope to see more Spock-centered episodes. I know that the fans really loved him from the first season, I guess, at the time, so hopefully that means they give him more episodes centered on him. That'd be cool. And I'd also just love to see more episodes like What Little Girls Are Made Of, where they're more of just, let's go down to this planet and figure out what's going on.
The whole idea is to explore strange new worlds, but it's also explore more stuff on the ship, I'm guessing, or more plots revolving around a certain room of the ship. That'd be neat to see.
Yeah, for sure. Well, we're not going to take a long break. We're going to jump into it pretty soon, so that'll be up on the channel. We're also going to be watching Firefly. That's only one season, and people really love it. We're going to watch that. We're thinking about Babylon 5, but that's a really, really long show with a lot of episodes. It's probably our most commented, most requested show for us to watch, but we'll have to see. You guys can comment down below, but there's I think it's 5 seasons of 22 episodes a season, 50 minutes, so I don't know if we would do the whole thing. We're trying to obviously prioritize Star Trek, but maybe we could throw some in there if there's certain episodes people like or something like that. But all right, we don't know how often we're going to do this, or we don't have a name for it or anything yet, so we're just going to figure that all out. But I guess it'll depend on how many people watch and like these types of videos, and what else there is to really talk about. We won't be, we're not going to talk about Star Trek every single time probably, so we'll figure out some stuff to watch.
Kind of like, I don't know, maybe like a recap show of stuff we've watched, every few months or something. I don't know.
I mean, you live here now, so.
Yeah, I'm sure. I mean, you're going to have to talk to me at some point. So, yeah.